Whether you are not using the process pinning donation queue, or someone didn't realize that a record for a donor already existed, merging donors is a way to keep your database clean in CDM Plus. It is especially an important step if you are providing tax statements to your donors from CDM Plus. By merging accounts together, you and donors will be able to see all of their donations from a single record, and only one statement will be produced for them. Keep in mind that donor records are tied to an individual and address record, so you will need to merge the individual records and delete the additional address records you no longer need when cleaning up these records. When merging, make sure to start with the donor records first, before merging the individual records and cleaning up the address records. So from the Welcome to CDM Plus window, click on Donor Records. When the Donor Records window opens, one trick to be able to see all of your donors with multiple accounts is to simply click on the donor last name header. This puts all of your donors in alphabetical order, and you're able to easily see any donors that may have multiple accounts. If you know a specific donor that you need to merge, you could always click on Find from the left-hand side menu, set up a search to highlight just those specific donors you want to merge together. When you see the accounts you need to merge together, you're going to simply highlight all of those accounts. So we're going to hold down the Command key on a Mac or a Control key on a Windows, and you can just click on those records to make sure they're all highlighted. And when you do this, you're going to notice that a Merge button is going to appear on this left-hand side menu. So we're going to click on Merge. From here, you're going to see all the records that you're going to merge together, and whichever one you want to be the main record, you're going to drag that record into the center. And then simply click on Next. Now, anything highlighted in blue is going to be what the final record is going to be. So if you want to make any edits or update the donor record code or their name, then you can do that in this window here. But if not, we'll keep on clicking. And then here we're going to see all the records that are going to be merged together. So we're going to click on Merge. We're asked, are you sure you want to proceed? And we'll click on Yes. And then we'll wait. And we'll see that 2 records were successfully merged with the main record here. We're going to click on Close. And now we can see in our results window as well that there's only 1 record that remains. Now, all the donor records are merged together, so the next step is to merge all of the individual accounts tied to the donor records together, so that we know which individual record is tied to the merged donor records. From this left-hand side menu, we're going to click on the individual jump button. This is going to open up the window of the individual record that's tied to those merged donor records. Because we want this record to be the main record when we merge, we need to mark this record with some sort of indicator that lets us know that this is the record we want to keep. So to do this, we're going to click on Change from this left-hand side menu. And in that last name field, we can go ahead and enter in a number 1 or a K for a keep, anything that kind of lets you kind of tag that record as the main one. And we'll click on Save here. Now we want to find all the other individual records we need to merge together. So in this case, we're going to click on Find from this left-hand side menu. We're going to set up a search. We want to make sure to use the Contains qualifier. Since we've added that number 1 at the end of the last name field, we want to make sure we're going to grab that. So that's why we're going to use Contains instead of equals to. And then we're just going to click on Find. So now we can see all the three records we want to merge together, and we know that the one that's tagged with the 1 is the one we want to keep, is the one that we want the main record to be. But before we can merge the individual records together, only one of these records can have online engaged credentials. So we do need to clear out the online credentials for the other records before we merge them together. One simple way to see if a record has a username is if you can configure your individual records window to make sure you're showing the username. So if your window is not set up like this, a simple trick is just to click on this configure button on this left-hand side menu. And here in the Find Results List columns, this is where you can choose what fields you want to see at a glance in this window. And this is where you can select username, which is the very last field, if it's not already selected here. And then just save those changes. All right, perfect. All right, so we want to keep the username that's associated with our number 1. So we're going to simply go to the next record we see. And in those online credentials fields, we're just going to click on clear. And now we see that username's been cleared. And we'll go to our third record and clear out those credentials as well. And now since we just have one record with a username, we can now merge all the individual records together. So to do this, again, we're going to highlight all those records. So either using that control key on your keyboard or the command key on the Mac, you can highlight each of these records here. And then we're going to click on merge from this left-hand side menu. Again, so the final record we want to keep is the one that we've tagged. So this is the one we're going to drag to the center and click on next. And since now we know that this is going to be the final record, we can go ahead and use this edit option, take out that 1, so the final record's not going to have that 1 on there. And we'll click on next. And then we just click on merge. We're asked, are you sure you want to proceed? And we're going to click on yes. And then we get the message that these records have been successfully merged. And we can just click on close. All right, so now all the donor records have been merged together, all the individual records have been merged together, and the last step is to clean up any of the address records tied to those merged accounts. So to do this, we're going to click on the address from the left-hand side menu. That's going to take us to the address record that's tied to all the merged individual and merged donor accounts. Now you can't merge address records together, but you can delete any records that you no longer need. So in this case, if I set up a find and I search for all of those records, I can see on this account here, on the left-hand side menu, I can see an individual and a donor jump button. This tells me that this record has individual records and donor records attached to it. However, if I click on that first record here, I'll notice I don't have any individual or donor records tied to this record. So that's how I know that I can go ahead and delete that address record there. And kind of the same thing, if I click on that third record, again, I don't have any individual or donor records tied to this address record. So I know that I can go ahead and delete that record as well. If you were to notice that more than one address record has those individual or donor jump buttons, I would double check that you've been able to grab all the necessary records that you wanted to merge together. So you might want to start back from the beginning if you notice more than one address record has affiliated records attached to it. But since we've double checked our records and we know that the first record we see here and that third record has no affiliated records with them, I can go ahead and highlight both of those records and then just click on that delete button from the left-hand side menu. Click on yes, and we're going to see this delete process take place. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and click on close. And it's going to ask you, are you absolutely sure that you want to delete these records because this process cannot be undone? And we're going to click on yes. We are absolutely sure. We double check that nothing is affiliated with those records, so we're good to go. And there we have it. And so now we just have one single address record that's tied to one single individual record that's tied to one single donor record. And now you're able to view all of your donors' donations from a single record within CDM Plus.